Truth Revolution.
Hey, welcome to Truth Revolution. This is where faith and reason meets. I'm Pastor Dave. That's Pastor Jeff. We are from Revolution Church in Salina, Kansas.
Happy Easter!
Yes.
Happy Easter. We are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ today, and we would love to have you come on out to Revolution Church and join us. Dave, what if they've never been here before? Is that okay?
Yeah. There was that one time you had never been here before.
And at one time, you had never been here
Right.
before. But when you came, what was it like?
It was loud and confusing, but I got used to it after a while.
Loud and
No, I'm
confusing?
just
Like the
kidding.
music was loud and confusing?
It's a
Were people friendly?
right. People.
Did anyone judge
Hey,
you? Sorry,
stop
go ahead.
leading me with questions.
Oh, Dave, was it or was it not the most awesome experience in your entire life? If not, remain silent. If so, speak.
Oh, it was awesome.
Awesome!
Okay. The thing is that, I've got a past. All right.
Yeah.
And I don't shy away from it anymore because I found out that there's actually a place where people will forgive you.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's a lot of forgiveness to be had. Man, you come in these doors and you come up to me and tell me, whatever you had done, man, I'm going to forgive you.
Same here.
So
Same here. We're all about forgiveness. Jesus forgives you. We forgive you. Church is the place where we find healing and forgiveness.
Amen.
So we're gonna welcome you here today. Though we're gonna look at the logical reason why we believe Jesus rose from the dead, because we're not just a religious group that just has a religious belief and we just want to believe it no matter what.
right, we want proof.
And evidence.
Yeah, and
Which is the same thing.
We want to share that with people.
Yeah, because we want the truth, man. We want the truth. And so we're going to look for the truth. A lot of times we do science. A couple weeks ago, we did science stuff. A couple weeks ago, we talked about, did Jesus claim to be God? Today, did he really rise from the dead? Because let's be honest, if he didn't rise from the dead, all of this stuff is just pointless. We're not doing church if he didn't rise from the dead. But if he did rise from the dead, then he really is the God who we say he was. He really is the Lord. He really is the one who offers forgiveness for our sins.
Absolutely.
So there's this acronym that was actually developed by a guy named Hank Hanegraaff.
Okay.
FEAT, as in the greatest feat in history. F-E-A-T,
Oh, okay. I'm glad you.
not F-E-E-T. It's the greatest feat.
Right.
Like an amazing feat. F-E-A-T. So the F stands for fatal torment.
Right.
The E stands for empty tomb. The A is for appearances. And the T is for transformation. So this is an acronym you can use to help remember how we know Jesus rose from the dead.
Right.
The F, fatal torment, is what's that all about, Dave?
Basically, it's a way of, we know that what Jesus went through when he was on the cross, some people say, well, maybe he just swooned. Maybe he passed out.
Yeah, swoon is when you like pass out or you just like go
Yeah.
unconscious and then you wake up later.
But let me tell you something. All the stuff that Jesus went through prior to getting hung on the cross, people look at the cross and they say, oh, Jesus suffered so much. Let's look at all the stuff that happened to him before he went on the cross.
Okay, so before he went to the cross in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying.
Yes.
And the Bible says that his sweat was like drops of blood. And a lot of people are like, well, that's kind of a dumb thing to say. Unless you're a medical professional who knows what hematidrosis is.
Right. And that actually means something.
Yeah. When you have so much anxiety and so much worry, your capillaries can actually burst in your hand. And it's a medical condition that causes the excretion of blood into your sweat. It also makes your skin extremely fragile. Now, this is important because Jesus at the garden, before he even gets arrested, has already blood loss. His body's already in a high anxiety state, and his skin has already become fragile.
Right. So we know that if this was the plan for God, this was actually the preparation time.
This was it.
For what all Jesus was going to go through.
So then they arrest Jesus. And what do they do to him after they arrest him?
Well, they put him in a nice little room with a bunch of toys and
Feed him some square meals.
Yeah. No.
No, that's not right. No. They punched him. They would make fun of him. They would punch him. So and you remember, his skin's already fragile. He's already lost blood. And then they started punching him. They scourged him.
Yeah. The half-death.
The half-death is what they used to call it. Actually, the poet Horace called for its ending, called it the half-death. He has said this is just too violent for Rome to do, but they continued its practice where they would actually take people, they would fasten them to a stump, then they would strip their clothes off of them, and they would take a whip with pieces of bone or metal at the end of it,
Yeah.
and they would whip the person from shoulder all the way down to their feet, until their skin was filleted, and then they would turn them over on the other side of their body and do the same thing. They called it the half death because it like half killed you.
Right.
A lot of the people who had scourging done to them actually didn't even make it. They died. And so Jesus has already lost blood. He's got skin that's fragile. Then they punch him. Then they scourge him.
Right.
Then when he's on the cross, they put something on him.
Well, they put the crown of thorns on him.
Which is...
Did they do that before the cross or after the cross? I don't remember which. But.
Well, they put a crown of thorns on him, and let's just say it's not for decoration.
Right. And the we have one of those floating around here that's got those big long spikes.
Yes.
You know, and
man.
every once in a while I'd run into it.
Yeah.
And that's not nice.
Yeah, because on Easter, we put up the cross with a little thing. And yeah, I turn around to put my guitar away, and like, bam, I hit my head on the little thorn.
Right.
That hurts.
It does. And not only did they put that, they fashioned it, they put it on his head, they actually took a stick and beat it into his brow.
That's right. So you can be pretty assured that this crown of thorns was not a decorative piece.
Right.
It was there to cause more pain, more wounds, more blood loss. So far he's got hematidrosis, he's lost blood, his skin is fragile, he's been punched, he's been scourged, he's got a crown of thorns jammed into his head.
Mm-hmm.
And then they literally nail his body to the cross.
Right. And let's not forget something, that the Romans were professionals at what they did. It wasn't like they just took, hey, who's going to volunteer for cross duty today?
Right.
And these guys were trained executioners, because that's exactly what it was. It was an execution.
These guys made the state of Texas look like pansies.
No kidding.
Right? They executed so many people. It's ridiculous. And they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely.
So they nail him to the cross, and then you have the crucifixion. I mean, let's just be honest. Probably a lot of people aren't going to live through the hematidrosis, the punching, the scourging, the crown of thorns, and being nailed to a piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something most people are going to survive. And then, on top of that, Jesus is crucified. And then, even through his crucifixion, and the Roman soldiers looking at him saying, he's dead.
Right.
He's dead. By the way, what would happen to a Roman soldier if he pronounced someone dead and they found out later they weren't dead?
Well, that's called being a derelict of your duties, and you would probably get killed yourself. You might even be crucified yourself.
That's right. The Roman soldier could get arrested or even crucified themselves if they were supposed to execute someone and they didn't.
Right. So if that's my job,
You're doing your job.
Yeah, I'm doing my job.
And so Jesus is on the cross. They pronounce him dead. He's dead. There's no way around it. But then, just to be sure, because they don't want to get in trouble,
Right.
a guy comes, one of the Romans, he takes a spear and he jabs it into Jesus' heart and lungs. It says when they pierced him, blood and water flowed. It likely pierced the pericardium, which is a sac of water surrounding your heart. Water came out of the wound. The heart was pierced directly. Now, I don't care who you are. You could be on a surgeon's table,
Yeah.
and unless they've got a heart standing by ready to put in right away, there's nothing a surgeon's going to do. If you are in a hospital and someone stabs you in the heart,
Right. You're done.
you're done.
Yeah.
You are done. They stabbed him in the heart. And so all of these things shows absolutely true. Getting stabbed in the lungs and the heart, crucified, nails, crowns of thorns, scourging, punching. And on top of all that, he already had hematidrosis and blood loss to begin with. He was dead.
And let me interject something real quick here. You know, you see all these pictures of Jesus on the cross being all nice and not messed up.
Right.
Let's be honest. Mary probably would have had a hard time recognizing her own son.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been bloodied and beaten. And a lot of you probably know what it looks like when someone gets beaten up and their face is swollen. And it was bad. And so that's F, fatal torment. We know he really died.
Right.
Because to rise from the dead, you have to know someone actually is dead.
Absolutely.
Now we know he was dead. Then the E stands for what?
The empty tomb.
Empty tomb. This is a big deal. A few days after Jesus was buried in a tomb, the tomb was empty. It was gone. And this is a big deal because they actually put Roman soldiers there to guard the tomb. It's not like they just buried him and everybody left and walked away. No, they put his body in there. They put Roman soldiers there. They put the emperor's seal on the tomb so that nobody could take his body.
Yeah, and another thing that I was reading about this a couple weeks ago, the stone that was rolled in front of the tomb would have actually been on an incline, so that they would have had to actually have several men to roll it away and then roll it up the incline.
Yes.
In order, and hold it open until they got Jesus' body out, if that's what they were doing.
Yeah. So it's not like some people say, well, Jesus swooned. Well, we already know he died. But
Right.
even if he didn't die on the cross, when you put him in the tomb for 3 days, it's not like he's going to suddenly heal himself.
Right.
I mean, unless he did a miracle and then get up and roll this rock away under his own power.
Right.
No. He's going to have bloody stumps, barely able to move. He's not going to roll a rock away. And even if by some miracle he did roll a rock away, he's not going to scare away a legion of Roman soldiers or
Right.
a few Roman soldiers. Here's what's interesting. Who does the Bible record as having discovered the empty tomb?
It's a couple of women.
Some women.
Yeah.
Now, for us in 2017, that's not a big deal. Okay, women discovered the tomb, right? Big deal. That they can tell
Right.
us this. But back then,
Yeah. In first century, in that area of the world.
no. Back then, that culture would have rejected it. If they were trying to make up a religion, they would not have had females be the discoverers of the empty tomb.
Right.
Unless it really happened.
Yeah.
Because
And they're just reporting fact.
yeah, because back then women weren't allowed to serve as legal testimony. They didn't think women were reliable. But in Christianity, who does God choose to see the empty tomb first?
A bunch of women.
He chooses women. God's like, oh, you don't think they're capable? Check this out. I'm using them.
Right.
And that's actually proof nowadays that it's real, because if they made it up, they wouldn't have used women as the discoverers. They would
Right.
have used someone who was reputable who discovered the tomb. And the governments, by the way, the Jewish governments, the Jewish authorities, the Roman governments, they all agree.
Right.
The historical records show they all agree that the tomb of Jesus was empty. No one is saying, well, this is weird. No, actually, guys, the tomb's actually full. His body's there. Everybody agreed. His body was
Well,
gone.
there's the one. There's that whole argument about, well, maybe they've had the wrong tomb. This is a government. The Roman, they basically were in charge of the entire known world at the time.
Yeah.
And so they had these guys. They've done this before. Had a seal on the tomb. They knew where he was. It wasn't like, oh, I was supposed to stand in front of that one over there.
And look, I believe governments are inept.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
well,
I do. But when a guy predicts his own rising from the dead, which is why they posted a guard at the tomb, because Jesus said he was going to rise from the
Right.
dead, the government is not going to accidentally go to the wrong grave.
Right.
And if they did, and then someone starts saying he rose from the dead, they're going to find the body and
Right.
say, his body's right here, ding dongs.
Right.
Just look at it.
Yeah. And they never did.
They never did. The Jews and the Romans both agreed that his body was not there. And these Roman soldiers, they were in big trouble. Satyricon, who was a writer, historian from back then, writes this about Roman soldiers.
He was in terror of punishment and explained to the lady what had taken place. He would await no sentence of court-martial, but would punish his neglect of duty with his own sword.
Okay, so that was from back then. Roman soldiers would not fall asleep. They would neglect their duty. So they didn't fall asleep in front of the tomb. Someone came and rolled the stone away and took his body.
Right.
That's not what happened. So we know he was actually dead. We know that 3 days later, his grave was empty. His tomb was empty. The A stands for appearances.
Yes.
This is a big deal. In 1 Corinthians 15, 3-8, what do we know that happened there, Dave?
We know that Jesus appeared to a minimum 500 people on 12 different occasions spread out over a 40-day period.
Bam! Okay, 500 people. And it actually lists their names, some of these people. So why would Paul, who wrote this, say, and he appeared to 500 people, and he says, most of whom still are alive.
Right, yeah, go ask him.
Yeah, go ask them. Go ask these people whether or not they saw Jesus. All right, we're going to come right back, and we're going to finish the evidence and the proof. And the last one, the T for transformation, is the biggest deal.
Amen.
It's the biggest one, so you don't want to miss this. But you got to come out to Revolution Church on Easter, 10 o'clock, 11:30.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock on Easter only, and then 5 p.m. So 10 o'clock, 11:30, 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. are our service times. And then you should come out the week after Easter, too.
It's
'cause
going to be fun.
we're getting some big old bounce houses. We're having hot dogs at
Yeah.
lunchtime and dinner time.
And we're going to have a welcome class.
And we're going to have a welcome class so
Yeah.
you can learn about the church.
Right.
So if you want to learn about the church, or if you just want hot dogs, or if you want your kids to play in a big old bounce house and
Or
an
if you
obstacle
just
course,
want all of it.
just come on out to Revolution
Yeah.
Church. And of course, today's Easter, so you should come out today too. So come out today, come out next week. Try it for a couple weeks. Worst thing that could possibly happen is you waste an hour.
Right.
But that's not going to happen. You're going to
No.
love it. All right. We'll be right back with more evidence that Jesus rose from the dead.
Truth Revolution.
Well, did Jesus actually die and then raised from the dead?
We contend that he did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today's Easter.
Yeah.
And so if you skip the advertisements there, we just want to make sure that you get out here. Because it's Easter. Service is at 10, 11:30, 1 p.m. And the 1 p.m. service is Easter only.
Right.
And then 5 p.m. So you got 4 service times to choose from. 10 o'clock, 11:30, 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. You just come on out. It's Easter. Coming out.
Right. And if you've never been to church before, if it's been a long time and you've been hurt by church before, this is the place for you, man, because a lot of people walk in here with reservations about what church might be like. And I've had a lot of people, like in my small group, I lead a men's small group, and it's like everybody's like, man, this place is just so great because you can really be yourself.
Yeah.
And we don't worry about what's in the past. That's in the past, man.
You're so right. Like, I don't know how many times I talk to someone and they're like, yeah, I didn't really want to come to church because, like, I tried church for a little while in the past and it was not okay.
Right.
It was not good for me. And they're like, but I've come here and like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I get to know who Jesus is. Because I believe in God already. Now I really get to know who he is. And your sermons are challenging to me. At the same time, they encourage me. I go to this small group and like the people that actually care about me, it's what I think it's what church is supposed to be.
You experience God's love the way that God had intended us to love each other. Now, it's not perfect.
No, it's not perfect.
Okay, by any stretch of the imagination. But
no. Horrible things are going to happen. Just kidding. They're not going to happen.
but we really strive to be a place where love flows freely.
Yeah, absolutely. Horrible things aren't going to happen. It's like Dave said. This is a place where love is going to happen, and we'd love you to come out on Easter and also next week, so your kids can hit up those bounce houses and you can grab some hot dogs, and it's gonna be a good time when we learn about God together. All right. So, did Jesus rise from the dead? Fatal torment. Yes, he died.
Right.
Empty tomb. Yes. 3 days after he died, his tomb was empty, and all the governments agreed. Then, he started appearing to people, and they started giving the names of people he appeared to, so you could go check it and ask people.
Right.
They could cross-reference, and they could be like, hey, Paul said that you saw Jesus alive. Did you really? And they could confirm this. And then the T, E-F-E-A-T, the greatest feat in history. The T stands for?
Transformation.
All right, the first consensus was Jesus is dead and not worthy of praise, but these guys claim that Jesus appeared to him. Them. The women also, to them.
Right.
And their lives changed forever.
Amen.
And let me tell you how their lives changed, because this is a big deal. But before we do that, we're going to do a Bible contradiction.
All right.
Bible contradiction.
You know, there's a website out there that's 100 or 1,001 Bible contradictions.
Well, we've probably answered about 1,000.
It's probably close. All right. God does or does not help those who need it. Okay, Psalm 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. However, Psalm 22:1-2 says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me? And from the words of my roaring, O God, I cry in the daytime, but thou hearest not, and in the night season, and I am not silent.
Okay, so in one of them it looks like God helps. The other one looks like God is far from helping. Well, this is easy. In our cracked acronym, the D stands for dialect. Like, what type of words are they using? Well, this is Psalms. This is poetic literature. These are songs.
Absolutely.
And it's expressing a personal feeling and emotion of the psalmist. So in Psalm 46, the psalmist feels and believes that God is very close to him, and he always helps him. And we would maintain this is true.
Yes.
In Psalm 22, the psalmist is expressing that he feels like God is far away. And he's saying, God, why do you seem to be so far away? Why are you so far from helping me? Why haven't you done anything? And we would maintain that sometimes it feels like this is true.
Right.
So these, although if you were to say, it's true that God is close to you and it's true that God is far away from you, that would be a contradiction.
Right.
But if I'm writing a song and I say, God is so close to me, but then sometimes it feels like he's so far away from me, you wouldn't be like, wow, you just contradicted yourself. You'd be like, no, that's a perfectly legitimate song.
Right.
You can write about your girlfriend. Sometimes she's close to you, sometimes she's far away from you.
Right.
Right? You just know that's how relationships work. That's how you feel. And so when God feels far away, what is he doing in Psalm 22? He's asking God to come close again.
Amen.
Why? Because God is a very present help in trouble. So when God doesn't feel close, ask him to come close, and
He will.
thank you, Dave. That's the
welcome.
answer for Bible contradiction today.
Bible contradiction.
I'm only glad I could help there.
Well, you solved it because I was going to answer it. He couldn't.
Whatever.
No. He always helps when we ask. Okay, so these guys who had their lives completely transformed. The first one was Thomas.
Yeah.
Thomas was once a super strong follower, but when Jesus died, he became a skeptic.
Right. And he is forever ensconced in history and in our vocabulary.
The poor guy.
The doubting Thomas.
Doubting Thomas.
Right.
Read John chapter 20 if you would.
All right. But then he said to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand in his side, I'll not believe it.
That was Thomas.
Right. A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe."
Woo.
Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed."
So Thomas transformed from a skeptic into actually a martyr.
Right.
Because he believed he saw Jesus alive.
Mm-hmm.
This is historical record. It's not in the Bible even. This is historical record. Thomas died telling people he saw Jesus alive. You don't die for something that you don't actually believe is true.
Right. Yeah.
So we know Jesus died. We know 3 days later his tomb was empty. We know that there were witnesses who said he appeared to them. And then we know Thomas claimed that Jesus was alive, so much so that he even died claiming that.
Wow.
We got Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
In Mark 14, Peter actually denies Jesus.
He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you're talking about." Peter swore he didn't even know Jesus, calling curses on himself. Fear drove Peter to deny Jesus, and shortly after Jesus' death, you couldn't find him hiding with the rest of his disciples, or you could have found him hiding with the rest of his disciples.
And he basically is like, I don't blankety blank know what you're talking about. God cursed me if this isn't true. I don't know Jesus.
Right, and he put himself in a very dangerous spot.
He did.
With God.
Yeah, he did. And so Peter was scared for his life, and Peter was actually hiding.
Mm-hmm.
But after Jesus rose from the dead, you see Peter suddenly become this huge public preacher, this disciple who would do anything. And, well, Peter, too, died claiming that he saw Jesus alive.
No.
Tertullian, who was not a writer of the Bible, he's just a Roman historian, he writes this.
He says that, "But if you are near Italy, you have Rome, where authority is at hand for us too. What a happy church that is, on which the apostles poured out their whole doctrine with their blood, where Peter had passion like that of the Lord."
Okay, had a passion doesn't mean like he was excited. The passion is the name for Jesus dying on the cross.
Right.
So it says Peter had a passion like that of our Lord. In other words,
He was crucified.
he was crucified.
Where Paul was crowned with the death of John the Baptist by being beheaded.
That's right. So Tertullian actually claims Peter was crucified. Church history and writings from the 2nd century AD has Peter being crucified upside down because he felt unworthy to be crucified in the same manner as Jesus.
That's hardcore.
So Peter turned from a scared denier of Jesus into a bold preacher who died for it because he believed Jesus rose from the dead and he saw it with his own eyes.
Right. That's a man with confidence, though.
That's a man with confidence.
Yeah, because if they're going to go ahead and hang me on a cross and I'm like freaking out, you know that Peter wasn't freaking out because he was like, go ahead and hang me upside down because I can't be hung on the way that my Lord was.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and just think about it. If someone was like, we're going to kill you if you say this is true. If it's something that you're like, I'm not 100% sure it's true, you're going to be like,
You're gonna waver.
don't kill me, don't kill
Right.
me. But if you're 100% sure you know that you saw Jesus back alive again, that's why these guys died. James, this is the brother of Jesus, okay? The brother of Jesus. Read Mark chapter 3.
All right. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered so that his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, he is out of his mind.
Okay, Jesus' brother thought he was crazy because he's claiming to be God, right? Then Josephus, again, this isn't in the Bible. This is just historical records.
Right. So he assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus who was called Christ, whose name was James, and some others. And when he had formed an accusation against them, as breakers of the law, he delivered them to be stoned.
Okay, and then you have this whole thing about the brother of Jesus just died because he claimed that his brother rose from the dead
Right.
and was God. I don't know about you. To claim that my brother was God would take
Right.
some serious convincing.
Yeah,
Like maybe
absolutely.
rising from the dead. So he was, and then you got Saul and Paul, and I'm going to skip over them, although this is probably the biggest one. You can just go to our website, truthrevolution.tv, type in Paul. You'll find evidence about Paul and how his life was transformed. But nobody dies for what they know to be a lie. Have people died for something that was not true? Well, of course, but they believed it was true. People have died for communism, Islam, Buddhism, but none of the people giving up their lives are dying because of a disputable fact.
Right.
They believed in a system or an ideology. These men were dying because they have a fact. Jesus was alive. I
Right.
saw him.
Yep, I saw him after he rose from the grave.
That's right. And not only that, they rejected all of their religious history and social norms. For these people had a hugely ingrained culture where you didn't change the culture.
Right.
In America, everybody does whatever they want. It's not a big deal. But in their culture, everybody did the same thing. Well, every Jew sacrificed animals. But when Jesus rose from the dead, those who saw him stopped
Yep, they stopped,
sacrificing
yep.
animals because they believed Jesus' death covered their sin. The Sabbath day was super holy. If you didn't follow the Sabbath, you could be killed. But early Christians decided to celebrate Sunday instead of on the Sabbath
Saturday,
day
right.
because they believed that's when Jesus rose from the dead. Their culture changed. Everything changed. They risked their lives because they said, I saw Jesus alive.
Amen.
So we know Jesus died. We know his tomb was empty. We know people saw him and their lives were changed because of it.
Yes, just more piling on of the evidence.
Come on out to Revolution Church. It's Easter. You want to be here. You're interested in God. You believe, or you're probably getting close to believing. You've thought about it. You're a little nervous. Just get over your nerves and come on out. No one's going to make you stand up in front of anyone.
No.
No one's going to make you say anything. We just come, sit down, listen to the service, and go home. That's it. It's super simple.
You're going to like it.
You're going to like it. And then come next week. Bring your kids. Some bounce houses. Some hot dogs. It's going to be great.